Anthony Albanese could finally sleep in this morning after winning the election, after 6 weeks of hard campaigning and then going to a big meeting of the Quad in Japan. But for Peter Dutton, the campaigning just goes on. The former Defence Minister today started his big blitz to sell himself as the new Liberal leader, even if the formal vote is yet to be held. And I thought his pitch actually was spot on, saying that he could now show his softer side, but more importantly, stressing a return to Liberal values.
I've learned a lot from the leaders I've served under, and I believe that we can win the next election, but there's a lot of work between now and then, and the Liberal Party has to get back to being the Liberal Party and being the broad church, and we're not the moderate Conservative Party, we're not the Conservative moderate party, we are the Liberal Party. But I do want people to see, the complete character that I am, not just what they've seen through sound grabs when I'm talking about, boats or all sorts of different issues, which are, difficult issues.
Of course, what Liberal values means has been a bit up for grabs, but I understand Dutton to mean that it's going to stand very firmly for things like opportunity, freedom, tolerance, handing power to people, not politicians, and focusing on the battlers, because cost of living, I'll say it again, is going to be a huge issue by the next election. But looking ahead, there are some lessons or warnings to learn from the results of this one. One is a divide involving Chinese Australians, and the other, another, even bigger divide. Urban elites versus the rest, the people the Liberals have got to make their own. To go through it, I've asked Chief Election Analyst Tom Connell to crunch some numbers. Tom, I'm really looking for some sort of big picture social trends here, cultural results, as it were, from the election. Can I start with something that I think has a real important signal here on national security? I think it's a real national security issue. What was the trend against the Morrison government in the seats with many Chinese voters like Bennelong and Chisholm?
Yeah, there were some bad signs for the Morrison government out of those. I mean, we've had some MPs talking about it since. Let's have a look and make sure we know what we're comparing here as well. So the New South Wales primary vote, first of all, you can see the coalition here is at 36.99, Labor about 33%. The swing against is the crucial factor. So 5.5% give or take against the coalition, a pretty poor result across the state. So you talk about splitting out the Chinese vote. Let's go to some of the seats with higher numbers of Chinese Australians in them. You mentioned Bennelong there, first of all. I'm actually going to start with Banks. This is a seat the government's held on to, but not by a big margin. Look at the swing for David Coleman. Now, in the seat of Banks here, you can say it's about on par with the state swing. So are we seeing perhaps this is not particularly costly? Hard to say exactly, but this is a seat that once was a pretty safe Liberal one. So at the same time, they'd be worried about that sort of swing and this now being right in play. So that's Banks. Then we look at Bennelong. I think this is a better example because, again, it was held by 6.9% by the Liberal Party. We know John Alexander was stepping down, but that is a huge swing. 9% against the Liberal Party on the primary vote, and Jerome Laxale only picked up 4%. So you're seeing a big anti-Liberal vote more than anything else in that seat. Two-party preferred, of course, is a very narrow victory to Labor, only because of the size of that swing against the Liberal Party. The swing to Labor in of itself wasn't enough. The key was the anti-Liberal message, seemingly. And then we go to Reid as well. Now, yes, people will point out this was always in play, but again, it's the size of this swing I think is interesting in Reid. When we look at Fiona Martin here, she's lost 10% in primary vote. Sally Situ gaining 5%, but Fiona Martin losing 10. And I think, again, that tells you the message here that this is more an anti-Liberal thing than anything else. Two-party preferred, of course. Reid, in the end, went easily, and now it's hard for the Liberal Party to actually win that seat back at the next election.
And there was a big swing in Chisholm in Victoria as well, which is probably the seat with the highest concentration of Chinese Australian voters. So for me, this is a concern, of course, because it suggests that if you take a tough stance on China, you'll be punished politically. And I think that's going to be a really concerning factor in election thinking by both parties from here on in. Now, again, I want to pick up something that first became really obvious to me with the 1999 referendum on the Republic, when it seemed that the further you got from Canberra, the further you got from the CBD of the big cities, the more anti the Republic you were. There's a real metropolitan country divide. I wonder, I think this election has exposed that even more this time. What are the results?
It does seem to be heading that way. Let's look at that through the prism of a different state, Victoria. And again, I want people to see, first of all, where the primary is at in Victoria for a comparison rate here. You can see the Liberal Party primary, LNP primary, 33.55, just ahead of Labor. The swing here for the Liberal Party, again, is about 5%. So how is that manifesting, if you like, in terms of actual seats? Let's take a look at that. First of all, taking a look at the seat of Higgins. The interesting thing to keep in mind with Higgins is this has been a very, very safe Liberal seat, of course, Andrew, for a long, long time. Look at the swing. Katie Allen, yes, it's 6%. You might say it's just above the overall primary swing. But again, think of the type of seat this is, and she's not even up against an independent. So that, for me, is an outsized swing, and it also seems to be more of an anti-Liberal swing. 6% against her, Labor picking up 3%, and some going to the Lib Dems. So yes, it's spraying around a bit, but that feels to me like an anti-Liberal vote, and this is pretty close to the city, I should mention, Higgins. You can see Labor picks it up on two-party preferred. Let's head a little bit further out then, within Victoria still. So let's keep this all through the prism of Victoria, to the seat of Goldstein. Now, this is obviously similar sort of distance, big swing in this city seat right now for Tim Wilson, 11.8%. Huge swing against him there. So again, an inner city type seat. Yes, we do have Zoe Daniel, but going from 52 down to 40% is a massive swing in a close to the city area. So there are a couple of city examples. Let's go out a little bit further then to Deakin. This is a seat the Liberal Party's managed to hang on to because the swing is not outsized. So we're talking eastern suburbs here. Michael Sukkar loses. Look, similar to the overall number there, but we're not seeing the extreme swing of Goldstein. And it's not meant to be as rusted on a seat as Higgins. But this has been a safer seat in hindsight. You can see Labor not picking up much of the vote, but what's interesting here is the Greens is picking up some of the vote. Two-party preferred, it is going to be a squeaker, but the Liberal Party hold on to that seat. Part of their issue is going to be holding on to these types of seats going forward if we're seeing a swing even in Deakin. Where are they getting safer, for example, in Melbourne? Well, let's go a bit further out. So well apart from the city, the seat of Flinders here now, and you can see only a 3% swing against Zoe McKenzie, even though Greg Hunt's actually stepping down. So this is where the Liberal Party is hanging on to its vote much better. Two-party preferred basis, you can see it's actually a swing towards the Liberal Party on a two-party preferred basis, Andrew, 56.81. So you can do it across different cities, but you can see there close to the city, and this is without even going into the teal movement, which we've spoken so much about, close to the city is where the Liberal Party vote has struggled the most.
Tom Connell, thank you so much indeed for your time.